The stars stretched endlessly across the black void as the USS Horizon moved through space at incredible speed. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the bright lights of distant suns through the main screen. His ship had been traveling for 3 months now, looking for new worlds and new life forms to study and maybe become friends with. Jake was a tall man with brown hair and kind eyes. He had been captain of the Horizon for 5 years, and he loved exploring the unknown parts of space. His crew trusted him completely, and he cared about each one of them like family. "Captain, we're picking up something strange on the sensors," said Lieutenant Lisa Carter from her position at the communications station. Lisa was a smart young woman with blonde hair who could speak 7 different languages. She had joined the crew 2 years ago and quickly became one of Jake's most trusted officers. Jake walked over to her station and looked at the screen. "What are you seeing, Lisa?" "There are ships ahead of us, sir. Big ones. They don't match any design in our computer files." Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her control panel. "They're not from Earth or any of the colonies we know about." Dr. Sam Rodriguez looked up from his science station. Sam was a quiet man who loved studying alien life forms. He had thick glasses and always wore his lucky blue shirt when they might meet new aliens. "Captain, I'm reading at least 20 vessels. They're much larger than our ship, and they seem to be made of some kind of crystal material." Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was what they had been looking for. First contact with a new alien race. "Can you tell if they're friendly, Sam?" "The energy readings are unlike anything I've seen before. The ships are giving off a blue glow, and there's some kind of wave pattern coming from them. It might be how they communicate." "Lisa, try to send them a standard greeting message," Jake ordered. "Let them know we come in peace." Lisa worked at her controls for several minutes. Then she looked up with a surprised expression. "Captain, they're responding, but not in the way we expected. I'm getting signals directly in my head, like someone is talking to me without using words." Jake frowned. "Is it dangerous?" "I don't think so, sir. They're asking us to come closer. They want to meet us." Lisa paused and tilted her head as if listening to something. "They call themselves the Vorthek." The alien ships moved closer to the horizon. Jake could see them clearly now through the main screen. They were beautiful in a strange way, made of what looked like blue crystal that pulsed with inner light. The ships had smooth curves and no sharp edges, and they seemed to float through space like living things. "Sir, they're asking permission to come aboard," Lisa said. "They want to have a peaceful meeting." Jake looked around at his crew. This was the moment they had trained for. "Tell them yes. We'll meet them in the main conference room." An hour later, Jake stood in the conference room with his senior officers. Lisa was there, along with Dr. Sam Rodriguez and Commander Ben Taylor, Jake's second in command. Ben was a serious man with black hair who always thought carefully before speaking. The doors opened with a soft sound, and the aliens entered. Jake tried not to stare, but they were unlike anything he had ever seen. The Vorthak were tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow softly. Their heads were larger than human heads, and their eyes were completely black with no white parts. They moved smoothly and gracefully, and Jake could feel something strange in the air around them. "Welcome to our ship," Jake said, stepping forward. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Horizon." The lead alien moved closer. When it spoke, Jake heard the words in his mind rather than with his ears. "I am Zixthara, speaker 4. The Vorthek. We are pleased to meet the humans. Your species is new to us. We're honored to meet you too," Jake replied. "This is the first time we've met your people. Are there others like you in this part of space?" Zixthara seemed to smile, though it was hard to tell with their strange face. "Oh yes, Captain Morrison. Many species serve under our guidance. We help them make good decisions and live in peace." Jake noticed something odd then. Behind Zixthara stood several other aliens, but they were different from the Vorthek. There was a tall reptile-like creature with green scales, a bug-like alien, with many arms and something that looked like it was made of pure energy. But all of them moved at exactly the same time, and their faces showed exactly the same expression. Lisa saw it too. She whispered quietly to Jake, "Sir, look at how they're all moving together. It's like they're connected somehow." Jake nodded slightly but kept talking to Zixtara. "We're explorers from Earth. We're looking for new friends and new knowledge. Perhaps we can learn from each other." "Indeed," Zixtara said. "We have much to teach you about how to live properly in this galaxy. There are rules that must be followed, and we help everyone understand them." As the meeting continued, Jake noticed more strange things. The other aliens never spoke for themselves. They only moved when Zixtara seemed to want them to move. When one of them did speak, they all said the same words at the same time. It was like watching a group of robots following the same program. Dr. Sam Rodriguez was taking notes on his tablet. He looked confused and kept glancing at the non-Vorthak aliens. During a break in the conversation, he whispered to Jake, "Captain, this doesn't seem right. In nature, different species never act exactly the same way. But these aliens are moving and thinking like they're all the same person." Jake was beginning to feel uncomfortable too. Something was wrong here, but he couldn't figure out what it was. The Vorthak seemed friendly enough, but there was something about them that made him nervous. "Captain Morrison," Zixtara said, "we would like to establish a proper connection with you and your crew. This is how we begin all friendships with new species. It will help us understand each other better." Jake felt a strange pressure in his head, like someone was trying to push their way into his thoughts. But the feeling slid away quickly, like water rolling off a rock. He looked around at his crew and saw that they were all shaking their heads slightly, as if trying to clear away cobwebs. Lisa looked confused. "I felt something strange just then, like someone was trying to read my thoughts," Ben frowned. "I felt it too, but it didn't work, whatever it was." Zixtara's black eyes seemed to grow wider. The alien stepped closer to Jake and tried again. This time, Jake felt a much stronger pressure in his mind. It was like someone was trying to force their way into his brain. But again, the feeling slipped away without any effect. "This is unusual," Zixtara said, and for the first time, the alien sounded surprised. "Your minds are different from what we expected." Jake looked at his crew. They all seemed fine, thinking and acting normally. But the other aliens in the room had become very still, like statues. Only their eyes moved, and they were all staring at the humans with the same expression of confusion. "Is there a problem?" Jake asked. "No problem, Captain Morrison," Zixtara said quickly. "We simply need more time to understand your unique species. Perhaps we should continue this meeting later." As the aliens left the conference room, Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Something was very wrong here, and he was beginning to suspect that the Vorthak were not the friendly visitors they pretended to be. He looked at his crew and saw the same worry in their eyes. "Lisa, I want you to run a full scan of those alien ships," Jake said quietly. "And Sam, check our alien crew members. See if they're acting normally." "Yes, sir," both officers replied. Jake had a bad feeling that their first contact with the Vorthak was about to become much more complicated than anyone had expected. Commander Ben Taylor couldn't sleep that night. He kept thinking about the strange meeting with the Vorthak aliens and how all the other species moved together like puppets on strings. He got up from his bed and walked to the bridge where Jake was still working. "Captain, I've been thinking about what happened today," Ben said as he sat down next to Jake. "Those aliens weren't acting normal. It was like they were all controlled by the same mind." Jake looked up from his reports. "I was thinking the same thing." "And did you notice how Zixtara seemed surprised when we didn't respond to whatever they were trying to do to us?" "Yes, sir. It felt like they were trying to get inside our heads somehow." Ben rubbed his temples. "But it didn't work on any of us." The next morning, Jake called his senior officers to his ready room. Lisa Carter, Dr. Sam Rodriguez, and Commander Ben Taylor sat around the small table while Jake stood by the window looking out at the stars. "I want to know more about our new friends," Jake said. "Lisa, have you found anything unusual about their ships?" Lisa opened her tablet and showed them the readings. "Captain," Their ships are powered by something I've never seen before. The energy pattern suggests they're not just using the crystals for decoration. The crystals seem to be sending out waves of some kind. Dr. Sam Rodriguez leaned forward. I've been studying the recordings of yesterday's meeting. Watch this. He played a video on his tablet that showed the alien visitors. See how the non-Vorthak aliens all blink at exactly the same time? And look at their facial expressions. They're identical, even though they're completely different species. That's impossible, Ben said. Different species should have different body language and reactions. Exactly, Sam replied. Unless something is controlling them all. Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. What are you saying, Sam? I think the Vorthak are controlling the other aliens somehow, making them do what they want. Sam adjusted his glasses nervously. And I think they tried to do the same thing to us yesterday, but it didn't work. Lisa looked scared. But why would they want to control other species? Before anyone could answer, the ship's alarm started ringing. Jake pressed a button on his desk. Bridge, what's happening? Captain, we have a problem, came the voice of Lieutenant Paul Green from the bridge. Our alien crew members are acting very strange. Jake and his officers rushed to the bridge. When they arrived, they saw something that made their blood run cold. The three aliens who worked on the horizon were standing together in the middle of the bridge, completely still. Their eyes were open, but they weren't blinking. They all had the same blank expression on their faces. How long have they been like this? Jake asked. About 10 minutes, sir, Paul replied. They were working normally, then suddenly they all stopped at the same time and walked to this spot. Dr. Sam Rodriguez approached the aliens carefully. Hello? Crix, he said to the reptilian crew member who usually worked in engineering. Can you hear me? Crix turned his head toward Sam, but his eyes looked empty. When he spoke, his voice sounded different than usual. We serve the Vorthak. We obey. The Vorthak. The Vorthak guide us? Sam backed away quickly. Jake, they're not themselves anymore. Lisa tried talking to Vel, the insect-like alien who worked in communications. Vel, it's me, Lisa. You helped me learn your language, remember? Vel looked at Lisa with empty eyes. We serve the Vorthak. We obey the Vorthak guide us. Jake felt sick. These aliens had been his friends and crew members for over a year. Now they were like walking robots. Ben, put them in the medical bay. Have Dr. Amy Foster look at them. Dr. Amy Foster was the ship's doctor who specialized in understanding how minds worked. She was a small woman with red hair who always stayed calm, even in scary situations. When Jake's team brought the controlled aliens to her medical bay, she immediately began running tests. Their brain patterns are completely different, Amy said as she looked at the readings on her computer. It's like someone has built new pathways in their minds. But the strange thing is, they don't seem to know they're being controlled. What do you mean? Jake asked. I asked them questions about their families and their homeworlds. They answered normally, but when I asked about their current duties or what they want to do, they only talk about serving the Vorthak, Amy showed. Them the brain scans. Look at these patterns. There are new neural pathways that weren't there in their last medical checkups. Ben looked at the scans with a worried expression. Are you saying the Vorthak changed their brains somehow? I think they did it without surgery, Amy replied. Some kind of mental process that creates new thoughts and removes old ones? Jake felt anger growing inside him. They're making slaves out of other species. Captain, Lisa said quietly, if they can do this to our crew members, why couldn't they do it to us? Dr. Sam Rodriguez had been thinking about the same question. Maybe. Human brains are different somehow. Maybe we're naturally protected against this kind of control. Amy nodded. That's possible. Human consciousness developed differently than most species. We've always been fighters and individual thinkers. Maybe that makes us harder to control. Just then, the ship's communication system came alive. Zixthura's voice filled the bridge. Captain Morrison, we would like to continue our discussions. Please prepare your crew for a more thorough meeting. Jake looked at his officers. He could see The fear in their eyes, but also determination. Lisa, send a message back. Tell them we need more time to prepare. Yes, sir? Lisa worked at her station for a moment. Captain, they're not accepting our delay. They're saying they want to meet with us right now. Sir, Paul Green called from his position, the Vorthak ships are moving closer to us. Much closer. Jake looked at the main screen and saw the beautiful crystal ships approaching. But now they didn't look beautiful anymore. They looked dangerous. Ben, take us away from here, full speed. Yes, sir. Ben's fingers flew over his controls. The horizon began to move away from the alien ships, but the Vorthak vessels followed. They're faster than us, Paul reported. They're gaining on us. Jake made a decision that would change everything. Lisa, send a message to Earth. Tell them what we've discovered. Tell them that the Vorthak can control minds, but humans seem to be immune. Captain, it will take months for the message to reach Earth, Lisa said. Send it anyway. And include all our research data about the Vorthak. Jake turned to his crew. Everyone, I want you to understand something. These aliens have been controlling other species for who knows how long. They tried to control us. But it didn't work. That makes us dangerous to them. Dr. Amy Foster looked up from her medical equipment. Captain, I've been studying the controlled aliens more. I think this mental control has been going on for a very long time. The neural pathways in their brains are old and well established. How long? Jake asked. Years, maybe decades or longer. Amy's face was pale. I don't think these aliens have been free for a very long time. The terrible truth began to sink in. The Vorthak weren't just trying to control a few species. They had been controlling entire civilizations for years, maybe centuries. And now they had discovered a species they couldn't control. Sir, Paul called out, the Vorthak ships are surrounding us. We can't outrun them, Jake looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were still thinking for themselves. They were still human. Ben, prepare for possible combat. Lisa, keep trying to contact Earth. Sam, I want you to find out everything you can about how their mind control works. And Amy, Jake added, see if you can find a way to help our alien crew members. They don't deserve to be slaves. As the Vorthak ships closed in around the horizon, Jake realized that his crew might be the only free minds in this part of the galaxy. And that made them the most dangerous thing the Vorthak had ever encountered. The crystal ships began to glow brighter, and Jake could feel that strange pressure in his head again. But just like before, it slipped away without affecting him. He looked around at his crew and saw the same thing happening to all of them. They're trying harder now, Lisa. Sighed. But it's still not working, Jake smiled grimly. Then we're going to show them what free humans can do. The Vorthak ships formed a perfect circle around the horizon. Jake could see their blue crystal hulls pulsing with brighter light like angry heartbeats. The strange pressure in his head was getting stronger, but it still couldn't break through whatever protected human minds. Captain, they're demanding we surrender, Lisa said, her hand pressed against her temple. The mental pressure is getting worse, but I can still think clearly. Jake looked at his crew. They were all struggling with the increasing psychic assault, but none of them showed signs of losing control. How are our alien crew members doing? Dr. Amy Foster checked her medical readings. The controlled aliens are getting more agitated. The Vorthak are putting more pressure on everyone, but it's only making the enslaved minds more unstable. Sir, Commander Ben Taylor called from his station, I'm reading weapon signatures from the Vorthak ships. They're powering up some kind of energy weapons. Jake made a decision that would save his crew's lives. All hands prepare for emergency jump. We're getting out of here. Captain, our junk drive needs 10 minutes to charge, Paul Green reported. And the Vorthak ships are too close. They might be able to follow us? Then we'll have to buy ourselves. Those 10 minutes. Jake turned to his crew. Everyone listen carefully. We're going to do something no controlled alien would ever do. We're going to be completely unpredictable. The first Vorthak energy beam hit the horizon's shields. The ship shook violently and sparks flew from several control panels. Jake grabbed onto his chair as the lights flickered. "Return fire," Jake ordered. "But don't aim where they expect us to." Lieutenant Paul Green had been the ship's tactical officer for 3 years. He was used to following standard fighting patterns, but now Jake was asking him to throw away everything he had learned. "Sir, what do you mean?" "Controlled minds fight in organized patterns," Jake explained as another energy blast hit their shields. "They do what makes logical sense. But we're going to fight like humans. We're going to be crazy," Paul understood. Instead of aiming for the Vortex ship's weapons or engines, he fired at their beautiful crystal decorations. Instead of flying in straight lines, he made the horizon spin and dance through space like a leaf in the wind. The Vortex ships tried to follow their movements, but they couldn't predict what the humans would do next. Their perfectly coordinated attacks kept missing as the horizon moved in ways that made no tactical sense. "It's working," Ben called out with excitement. "They can't hit us because they don't understand how we think." But Jake knew they couldn't. "Keep this up forever. How long until the jump drive is ready?" 6 more minutes, sir," Paul replied while making the ship loop around one of the Vorthak vessels. That's when things got worse. More ships appeared on their sensors. Dozens of them, all from different alien species, but all moving with the same coordinated precision. "Captain, we have a big problem," Lisa announced. "There are 47 ships surrounding us now. Reptilian vessels, insectoid fighters, and some I don't recognize." Jake watched the new ships take position around them. Every single one moved in perfect formation like parts of a giant machine. "They're all controlled by the Vorthak." Dr. Sam Rodriguez looked up from his science station. "Sir, I'm detecting thousands of life forms on those ships. Different species, but they're all showing the same brainwave patterns as our controlled crew members." The terrible truth hit Jake like a physical blow. This isn't just about a few alien species. The Vorthak have been controlling entire civilizations. "Captain," Amy Foster said quietly, "I've been analyzing the data from our alien crew members. Based on the neural pathway development, I think this has been going on for centuries. Maybe thousands of years?" Jake felt sick. Thousands of years of slavery, and no one had ever been able to fight back because every species that met the Vorthak lost their free will, until now. 4 minutes to jump," Paul announced while dodging energy beams from 6 different directions. The controlled alien ships began firing in perfect coordination. The horizon's shields were getting weaker with each hit. Sparks flew from control panels and the lights kept flickering. "Shields down to 40%, Ben reported. "We can't take much more of this." Jake looked around at his crew. They were scared, but they were still thinking for themselves, still making their own choices. "Lisa, is our message to Earth still transmitting?" "Yes, sir." "But the Vorthak are trying to block it." Lisa's fingers flew over her controls. "I'm routing it through different channels. Some of it should get through." "Good. No matter what happens to us, Earth needs to know what we've discovered." Jake paused as another blast shook the ship. "And they need to know that humans are immune to Vorthak control." Dr. Amy Foster suddenly looked up from her medical station. "Captain, I have an idea. What if we could disrupt the Vorthak's control over the other ships? If we could free some of those alien crews, they might help us." "How?" Jake asked. "I've been studying the brain patterns of our controlled crew members. The Vorthak control works through specific neural frequencies. If we could broadcast a disruptor signal on those frequencies, it might break their hold temporarily." 2 minutes to jump," Paul called out. "Do it," Jake ordered. "Amy, work with Sam to create that signal. We don't need to free them permanently, just long enough to confuse the Vorthak." Amy and Sam worked together frantically while the ship continued to shake under enemy fire. The shields were down to 20%, and several systems were failing. "Ready, Captain," Amy announced. "But I don't know if it will work." "Try it," Jake said. Amy activated the disruptor signal. For a moment, nothing happened. Then one of the attacking ships suddenly stopped firing, then another. Within seconds, half the enemy vessels were flying in confused patterns, no longer part of the coordinated attack. "It's working," Ben shouted. Some of the alien crews are fighting back against their own ship's control systems. Jake watched as several of the freed ships began firing at the Vorthak vessels. The perfectly organized attack formation fell apart as chaos spread through the enemy fleet. 1 minute to jump, Paul announced, but the Vorthak weren't finished. The crystal ships began glowing brighter than ever before. Jake felt the mental pressure increase to painful levels. Even though it couldn't control him, it felt like someone was trying to crush his skull. "They're putting everything they have into this attack," Lisa gasped, holding her head. "I can barely think straight." The freed alien ships were being overwhelmed by the psychic assault. One by one, they stopped their rebellion and returned to Vorthak control. The window of confusion was closing fast. "Jump drive ready," Paul announced. "Do it now," Jake ordered, but just as Paul reached for the jump control, something terrible happened. The Vorthak ships fired all their weapons at the same time, not at the horizon, but at the freed alien vessels. The ships that had tried to help the humans were destroyed in seconds. Jake watched in horror as the vessels exploded in bright flashes of light. Those aliens had been slaves for who knows how long, and for just a few moments they had been free. Now they were dead. "Jumping now?" Paul said, his voice tight with emotion. The horizon vanished from the battle site in a flash of light, leaving the Vorthak ships behind. They were safe for now, but Jake knew this was just the beginning. "Set course for Earth," Jake ordered, "maximum speed." "Sir, even at maximum speed it will take us 3 months to reach Earth," Ben said. "Then we'd better hope our message got through," Jake replied. "Because the Vorthak know about us now. They know there's a species they can't control, and they're going to do everything they can to stop us." Lisa looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm picking up massive energy signatures from the area we just left. The Vorthak are gathering more ships, a lot more ships." Jake stared at the stars ahead of them. Somewhere out there was Earth, and the only free humans in the galaxy. Then we'd better warn them what's coming. The journey back to Earth took 2 months instead of 3. Jake pushed the Horizon's engines beyond their safety limits because he knew what was coming behind them. Every day, their long-range sensors picked up more and more ships following their trail. The Vorthak were gathering the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. When Earth finally appeared on their screens, Jake felt both relief and fear. Relief because they had made it home safely, but fear because he knew their planet was about to become a battlefield. Admiral Susan Blake was waiting for them at Earth Station 1. She was a tough woman with gray hair who had been protecting Earth for 20 years. When Jake and his crew arrived at her office, her face was serious and worried. "Captain Morrison, we received your message," Admiral Blake said. "At first, we thought it was some kind of mistake. Mind control aliens that rule the galaxy? It sounded like something from an old movie." "I wish it was just a movie, Admiral," Jake replied. "But it's real, and they're coming here." Dr. Kevin Wright stepped forward from where he had been standing by the window. Kevin was Earth's best scientist when it came to studying how brains worked. He was a thin man with messy hair who always looked like he had just woken up. "Captain, I've been studying the data you sent about human immunity to Vorthak control." Kevin said, "I think I understand why we're different." "Tell me," Jake said. "Human brains develop differently than most species. We spent thousands of years fighting each other, competing, arguing, and thinking for ourselves. This made our neural pathways very complex and individual. Each human brain is like a unique maze that's almost impossible for outsiders to navigate." Admiral Blake nodded. "So you're saying our fighting nature actually protects us?" "Exactly. Most alien species evolved to work together in harmony. Their brains are more organized and predictable. That makes them easier for the Vorthak to control. But humans are chaotic thinkers. We don't follow patterns that can be easily manipulated." Lisa Carter, who had been promoted to commander after their escape, spoke up. "Admiral, there's something else. We were able to temporarily free some controlled aliens by disrupting the Vorthak's neural control signals." Kevin's eyes lit up with excitement. "You mean we can help them? We can break the mind control?" "For short periods," Dr. Amy Foster explained. But the process is dangerous. Some aliens can't handle suddenly remembering that they've been slaves for centuries. It breaks their minds completely. Admiral Blake looked out the window at the space stations and ships orbiting Earth. How long do we have before they arrive? Based on their speed and the size of their fleet, maybe 2 weeks, Jake answered. And Admiral, it's not just Vorthak ships. They're bringing controlled vessels from dozens of different species. We're talking about thousands of ships. Then we need to prepare Earth's defenses and start freeing as many controlled aliens as we can. Admiral Blake turned to Kevin. Doctor, how quickly can you build devices to disrupt their mind control? Give me a week and all the resources I need, and I can have the first prototypes ready, Kevin replied. While Kevin worked on his neural disruptor devices, Jake was given command of Earth's newest ship, the USS Liberty. It was larger and more powerful than the Horizon, and it would be Jake's job to lead the human resistance against the Vorthak invasion. Commander Ben Taylor was assigned as Jake's second-in-command again. Lisa Carter became the head of communications for the entire fleet. Dr. Sam Rodriguez worked with Kevin Wright to understand Vorthak technology, while Dr. Amy Foster trained other doctors on how to help freed aliens. Lieutenant Paul Green, who had proven himself during their escape, was promoted to major and given command of a squadron of fighter ships. His job was to train pilots in the unpredictable fighting style that had worked so well against the Vorthak. Remember, Paul told his pilots during training, controlled enemies think in patterns. They expect logical moves. So don't be logical. Be human, be crazy. Do things that don't make tactical sense and you'll confuse them. The pilots practiced flying in wild, seemingly random patterns. They learned to attack targets that didn't seem important and to retreat when they should advance. It looked like chaos, but it was exactly the kind of chaos that the Vorthak couldn't predict or counter. Meanwhile, the first colonies to be attacked were reporting in. New Boston, one of Earth's furthest settlements, sent desperate messages before going silent. Governor Dan Miller's last transmission was terrifying. "They're here!" Dan's voice crackled over the communication system. "Hundreds of ships. Our alien neighbors are attacking us, but their eyes look empty. They're not acting like themselves. Please, if anyone receives this message, tell Earth that the enemy can control minds. Tell them to fight back. Tell them to never give up." After that silence, more colonies went dark over the next few days. Mars Colony, Luna Base, and the mining stations around Jupiter all stopped sending messages. Earth was being cut off from all its outer settlements, but then something wonderful happened. 3 days before the main Vorthak fleet was expected to arrive, a group of ships appeared near Earth. They weren't human ships, and they weren't moving in the coordinated patterns of controlled vessels. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission," Lisa announced from her new position at Fleet Command. "It's from the approaching ships." "Put it through," Admiral Blake ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was rough and reptilian. "Human fleet, this is General Krax of the Saurian Liberation Force. We received your neural disruptor signal and have broken free from Vorthak control. We wish to fight beside you." Jake felt hope rising in his chest. "Admiral, may I respond?" "Go ahead, Captain. General Krax, this is Captain Jake Morrison. We're honored to have you fighting with us." "How many ships do you have?" 12 vessels, Captain Morrison. "Not many, but we fight with free minds for the first time in 800 years. We will not waste this chance." Over the next 2 days, more liberated alien ships arrived. A group of insectoid Clixie vessels led by Commander Zixtal. 5 energy-being ships from the Luminari, commanded by a being who called itself Bright Thought of Freedom. Even some smaller groups of species that Jake had never heard of. Each group had the same story. They had been slaves to the Vorthak for hundreds or thousands of years. When they received the neural disruptor signal that Earth was broadcasting, some of their people had broken free and escaped. Dr. Amy Foster worked day and night helping the freed aliens deal with the trauma of suddenly remembering their enslavement. Many of them were angry beyond words. Others were so sad they could barely function, but all of them wanted to fight. "The Vorthak told us we were happy," General Krax explained to Jake during a planning meeting. They made us believe we chose to serve them. But now I remember my homeworld before they came. I remember my family fighting against them and losing. I remember being forced to watch as my own people were turned into slaves. The alien commander's eyes burned with rage. Captain Morrison, your species has given us something we thought was lost forever. You have given us hope. Kevin Wright's neural disruptor devices were ready just in time. Each human ship was equipped with transmitters that could break Vorthak. Mind control within a limited range. The freed alien vessels were given smaller versions that could protect their own crews. Remember, Kevin warned during the final briefing, the disruptors only work temporarily. The Vorthak will adapt and find ways to strengthen their control. We'll have one chance to free as many aliens as possible during the battle. Admiral Blake looked around the command center at all the different species working together. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored aliens, tomorrow we fight for the freedom of the entire galaxy. The Vorthak have controlled civilizations for thousands of years, but they've never faced anything like us before. Jake stood up. They think controlling minds makes them powerful. But they're about to learn that free will is the strongest force in the universe. As if responding to his words, alarms began ringing throughout the station. Lisa's voice came over the communication system. All hands to battle stations. The Vorthak fleet has arrived. I repeat, the Vorthak fleet has arrived? Jake looked out the window and saw them. Thousands of ships filling the space around Earth like a deadly cloud. Crystal Vorthak vessels glowing with blue light, surrounded by countless controlled alien ships from dozens of different species. This is it, Admiral, Blake said. Time to show them what free minds can do? The battle for Earth began at dawn. Thousands of Vorthak-controlled ships moved toward Earth like a dark cloud blocking out the stars. Jake stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the enemy fleet approach with deadly precision. All ships. This is Admiral Blake, came the voice over the communication system. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for every enslaved mind in the galaxy. Today we break the chains that have held civilizations prisoner for thousands of years. Jake looked at his crew. Ben Taylor stood ready at his command station. Lisa Carter was coordinating communications between all the Allied ships. Dr. Sam Rodriguez monitored the neural disruptor systems while Dr. Amy Foster prepared medical teams for the freed aliens they hoped to rescue. Captain, the Vorthak are sending a message, Lisa announced. Put it through, Jake ordered. Zixthara's voice filled the bridge. But now it sounded cold and angry instead of friendly. Humans of Earth, you have caused great trouble in our perfect galaxy. You will surrender now, or we will destroy your world and everyone on it. Jake activated the response channel. Zixthara, this is Captain Jake Morrison. Your perfect galaxy is built on slavery and lies. Today that ends. You cannot stop us, human. We control millions of minds across thousands of worlds. What can your tiny species do against such power? We can think for ourselves, Jake replied, and we can help others do the same. The first wave of controlled alien ships attacked Earth's outer defenses. Major Paul Green led his fighter squadron in the wild, unpredictable patterns they had practiced. The controlled pilots couldn't figure out where the human fighters would go next, and their coordinated attacks kept missing their targets. Neural disruptors are working, Dr. Sam Rodriguez reported. I'm seeing disruption in the enemy control signals. All across the battlefield, controlled alien ships began breaking formation as their crews suddenly remembered who they really were. Some ships stopped fighting immediately. Others turned their weapons on nearby Vorthak vessels, attacking their former masters with desperate fury, but the Vorthak adapted quickly. The crystal ships began glowing brighter, sending out stronger control signals that recaptured many of the freed minds. The battle became a struggle between liberation and enslavement, with alien crews switching sides as the mental war raged around them. Admiral Blake's flagship, the Defender, moved through the chaos like a sword cutting through the enemy lines. Her neural disruptors freed dozens of ships at a time, but the Vorthak kept recapturing them with stronger mental pressure. We need to get to their main control ship, General Krax's voice came over the communications. His Saurian vessels were fighting alongside the humans with savage determination. The largest crystal ship in the center of their fleet. That's where their most powerful mind controllers are working. Jake could see it through the battle smoke and laser fire. A massive Vorthak vessel 3 times larger than any other ship, glowing so brightly it hurt to look at directly. Waves of mental energy poured from it like water from a broken dam. "Then, set course for that ship," Jake ordered. "We're going to end this." The Liberty pushed through the battle toward the Vorthak command vessel. Enemy ships tried to stop them, but the human crew's unpredictable tactics kept surprising their attackers. When logic said they should go left, Jake ordered them to go right. When they should retreat, they attacked. When they should attack, they danced away like ghosts. "Commander." Zixtal-S insectoid ships joined them, along with Bright Thought of Freedom's energy vessels. The freed aliens fought with a fury that the controlled minds couldn't match. They had been slaves for centuries, and now they were finally free to fight back. But as they got closer to the command ship, the mental pressure became almost unbearable. Even though it couldn't control human minds, the psychic assault was like having hammers pounding inside their skulls. "Captain, I can barely think straight," Lisa gasped, holding her head. "How are we supposed to function like this?" Dr. Amy Foster had an idea. "Jake, what if we used our own minds as weapons? The Vorthak expect us to be weakened by their mental attacks. But what if we projected our own thoughts back at them?" "What do you mean?" Jake asked while dodging another enemy blast. "Human thoughts are chaotic and unpredictable. If we focused all our mental energy and broadcast it back at them, it might disrupt their control systems. Like feedback in a sound system?" Jake looked around at his crew. They were in pain from the psychic assault, but they were still thinking clearly, still making their own choices. "Everyone, focus on the most human thoughts you can. Think about freedom, about making your own decisions, about everything that makes us who we are." The crew concentrated hard, pouring all their mental energy into thoughts of independence and free will. Dr. Sam Rodriguez boosted the neural disruptor systems to maximum power and aimed them at the command ship. The effect was immediate and incredible. The massive crystal vessel shuddered as conflicting mental energies tore through its control systems. Across the entire battlefield, thousands of controlled aliens suddenly broke free at the same time. "It's working!" Ben shouted with excitement. "Look at the enemy ships." Everywhere Jake looked, former enemy vessels were turning against the Vorthak. Reptilian ships, insectoid fighters, energy beings, and dozens of species Jake didn't recognize were all attacking their former masters with desperate vengeance, but the Vorthak weren't finished. The remaining crystal ships gathered around their command vessel, pouring all their power into one final attempt at control. The mental pressure increased beyond anything they had felt before. "They're trying to take control of everyone at once," Amy warned, "including the aliens we just freed." Jake saw what was happening. Some of the liberated ships were beginning to slow down as the Vorthak tried to recapture their minds. The freed aliens were fighting back, but they were weakening under the massive psychic assault. "We have to destroy that command ship now," Jake decided, "before they can enslave everyone again." But the command vessel was protected by energy shields and surrounded by the remaining Vorthak fleet. A direct attack would be suicide. That's when engineer Rick Parker made the ultimate sacrifice. Rick had been with Jake's crew since the beginning, a quiet man who always found solutions to impossible problems. "Captain, I can overload our neural disruptor," Rick announced from the engine room. "If I channel all our ship's power through it and aim it directly at their command ship, it should create a permanent disruption field. But it will destroy our ship in the process." Jake felt his heart sink. "Rick, there has to be another way." "There isn't, sir. And Captain, someone needs to survive to tell the galaxy what happened here. Take the escape pods and let me finish." Jake looked at his crew. They had become like family to him over the years, but Rick was right. If they didn't stop the Vorthak now, every freed mind in the galaxy would be enslaved again. "Do it," Jake ordered quietly. The crew evacuated. to escape pods while Rick stayed behind to complete his mission. As the Liberty flew toward the Vorthek command ship, Rick channeled every bit of power the ship had into the neural disruptor array. The explosion was visible from every ship in the battle. The Liberty and the Vorthek command vessel were both destroyed in a flash of light so bright it lit up half the solar system. But Rick's sacrifice worked. A wave of disruption energy spread out from the explosion, permanently damaging the Vorthek's ability to control minds. Across the galaxy, billions of enslaved aliens suddenly remembered who they really were. On 1,000 worlds, controlled civilizations rose up against their Vorthek masters. The age of mental slavery was ending. The surviving Vorthek ships, now outnumbered and facing enemies on all sides, finally surrendered. Some, led by a young Vorthek named Zolfik, asked for forgiveness and offered to help repair the damage their species had caused. Months later, Jake stood on the bridge of a new ship, the USS Freedom. Around him worked representatives of dozens of liberated species, each thinking their own thoughts and making their own choices for the first time in centuries. Admiral Lisa Carter approached him with a report. "Captain, we've received messages from over 200 previously controlled worlds. They're all free now, and they want to join our new alliance." Jake smiled as he looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of minds were thinking freely for the first time. The galaxy would never be the same. "Set course for the Alpha Centauri system," he ordered. "We have a lot of civilizations to help rebuild." As the Freedom jumped to hyperspace, Jake thought about Rick Parker and all the others who had died to make this freedom possible. They had proven that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't mind control or advanced technology. It was the simple, chaotic, wonderful ability to think for yourself.